my daughter sent me an email that made my hands shake. Mother, Thomas and I have decided you won't be attending our Thanksgiving dinner this year. Your constant judgment of my choices has become unbearable. We need space. Jessica. I read it 3 times, each word cutting deeper than the last. Then I closed my laptop, picked up my phone, and called a private investigator. Let me back up. I'm Marina, and until 6 months ago, I thought I knew my daughter better than anyone in the world. Jessica and I had always been close. After her father died when she was 12, it was just the 2 of us against the world. I worked double shifts as a nurse to put her through college, and she became the kind of daughter who called me every Sunday, who showed up at my house with Thai food when she knew I'd had a rough week. She was a prosecutor, brilliant and driven, with a sharp mind that could cut through lies like a hot knife through butter. That's why it shocked me so completely when she fell for Thomas Beck. They met at a legal conference in Chicago 18 months ago. She came home glowing, talking about this entrepreneur who was revolutionizing nonprofit funding. He had big ideas, she said. He was going to change the world. Within 3 months, they were living together. Within 6, engaged. I met Thomas for the first time at a stiff dinner at an overpriced restaurant downtown. He was handsome in that polished way, mid-30s, with perfect teeth and a firm handshake. But something felt off. When I asked about his family, he got this distant look and said his parents had died in a car accident when he was 20. No siblings. No extended family to speak of. He'd built himself from nothing, he said, which I wanted to admire. But when I asked follow-up questions, his answers were vague, slippery. His nonprofit work, his previous companies, even which college he'd attended. Everything was glossy on the surface but empty underneath. Jessica saw my concern and bristled. You're being paranoid, Mom. Not everyone has a picture-perfect background. We argued that night for the first time in years. After that, things changed. Jessica stopped calling every Sunday. When I texted, her responses were short, delayed. When I suggested lunch, she was always busy. The few times we did see each other, Thomas was there, his hand possessively on her lower back, answering questions she'd directed at me. Once, her phone rang during dinner. She glanced at the screen and I saw my name. Is that your mom again? Didn't you just talk to her? Thomas said, his voice light but with an edge. Jessica silenced the call. My call. I tried to talk to her about it. Sweetheart, I feel like we're drifting apart. She sighed. That new, tired sigh she'd developed. Mom, you have to understand. Thomas and I are building a life together. You can't always be the center of my world anymore. The words hurt, but it was the way she said them, like she was reciting lines someone else had written. Then came the engagement party. I wasn't involved in planning it. I found out the date from a Facebook event Jessica had forgotten to mark private. When I showed up, Thomas greeted me at the door with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Marina, Jessica wasn't sure you'd make it. Jessica appeared behind him, looking uncomfortable. I meant to call you, Mom. It's been so hectic. Throughout the party, I watched them. The way Thomas kept his arm around her waist, steering her away whenever I got close. The way he laughed too loudly at his own jokes and dominated every conversation. But what really caught my attention was a moment I wasn't supposed to see. I'd gone to the kitchen for a glass of water and heard voices in the hallway. Thomas and Jessica. Why did you talk to him? I told you he's trying to sabotage my business. Jessica's voice, defensive. He's just an old colleague, Thomas. It was a 2-minute conversation. Thomas's voice dropped lower, harder. You don't see how people manipulate you, Jessica. That's why you need me to protect you. I stood frozen, water glass in hand. That's when I knew. This wasn't love. This was control. I tried one more time. I invited Jessica to lunch. Just the 2 of us. She came, but she was different. Thinner. Tired. There were shadows under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. "Honey, are you happy?" I asked. She smiled, but it was brittle. "Of course, Mom. Thomas is wonderful. I'm just stressed with work and wedding planning." I reached for her hand. "If you ever need anything, if you ever want to talk." She pulled her hand back. "I'm fine, Mom. I wish you'd just be happy for me." That was 3 months before the email. When the email came, I wasn't entirely surprised, just devastated. I read it again, looking for my daughter in those cold, formal words. I didn't find her. What I found was Thomas's voice, his phrasing. "Your constant judgment." I'd never judged her. I'd questioned him. "We need space." Not "I need space." "We." I called her. She didn't answer. I called again. Nothing. I sent a text. "Jessica, please talk to me. Whatever I've done, we can work through it." 3 hours later, I meant what I said in the email. Please respect our boundaries. Our boundaries. Not hers. Ours. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the signs I'd seen. Thomas with no verifiable past. Jessica's isolation from friends and family. The way he controlled conversations. Controlled her movements. Controlled her phone. And then I thought about something he'd said at the engagement party. Someone asked about his previous business ventures, and he'd mentioned a tech startup in Austin that had been ahead of its time. The way he said it, casual and practiced, made me think he'd told that story before. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I Googled my daughter's fiancé. Thomas Beck, nonprofit entrepreneur. The results were surprisingly thin. A LinkedIn profile with only 2 years of history. A website for his current nonprofit that was beautifully designed but vague on actual accomplishments. No news articles, no mentions from college. For someone who was supposedly revolutionizing philanthropy, Thomas Beck had remarkably little digital footprint. I dug deeper. I searched for the Austin startup he'd mentioned. Nothing. I searched for Thomas Beck in combination with other cities, other ventures. Still, nothing. Then, I tried something else. I searched for his parents' accident. He'd said it was 20 years ago, that they'd died in Colorado. There were databases for these things, public records. I spent hours searching. Nothing matched his story. That's when I knew I needed help. I found Sarah Kim through a friend of a friend. Former FBI. Now a private investigator specializing in fraud and background checks. We met at a coffee shop in a strip mall 40 minutes from my house. Sarah was younger than I expected, maybe 45, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. I told her everything. She listened, taking notes on a small tablet. "You were right to call me," she said when I finished. "What you're describing sounds like a classic isolation pattern. Do you have his full name, date of birth, social security number?" I had his full name from the engagement announcement. Nothing else. Sarah nodded. "That's enough to start. Give me a week." 6 days later, she called me. "We need to meet." Not on the phone. We met at the same coffee shop. Sarah had a folder, thick with papers. She slid it across the table, her face grim. "Marina, your instincts were right. Thomas Beck is not who he says he is." I opened the folder. The first page was a driver's license photo. It was Thomas, but the name read Thomas Brennan. The next page was another license, another state. Tom Beckman. 4 different identities in total, spanning 8 years. "He's a romance scammer," Sarah said. "He targets successful professional women, lawyers, doctors, executives, women with assets and access to money. His pattern is consistent. He meets them, moves fast, isolates them from family and friends, then makes his financial ask. He's done this at least 3 times before that I can confirm." My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the papers. "What happened to the other women?" Sarah pulled out more documents. The first one, a doctor in Seattle, He convinced her to invest $300,000 in a medical technology startup. The startup never existed. By the time she realized, he was gone. The second, a corporate lawyer in Denver, he drained her savings account after getting her to add him as a joint holder, claimed he needed it for legal fees for a business dispute, disappeared overnight. The third, a judge in Phoenix, similar story. He's wanted in 2 states, but he keeps changing names, keeps moving. I felt sick. Does Jessica know? Has he asked her for money? Not yet that I can tell. But he will. That's always the end game. Sarah pulled out another document. There's more. He's not an orphan. His parents are alive and well in Florida. They disowned him 6 years ago after he stole from his own sister. And Marina, there's something else you need to know. She paused. He's still married. His wife is in California. She has no idea he's engaged to your daughter. The coffee shop spun around me. I gripped the edge of the table. I have statements from 2 of the previous victims who are willing to go on record. I have documentation of his other identities, his criminal complaints, his current marriage certificate. It's all here. Sarah's voice softened. But Marina, you need to be prepared. Women in Jessica's situation, they often don't believe it at first. He spent months conditioning her to distrust everyone, especially you. That afternoon, Thomas and Jessica showed up at my door. I hadn't contacted Jessica since Sarah's call. I was still trying to figure out how to approach her, how to make her listen. But there they were, standing on my porch. Thomas had his arm around Jessica's shoulders. She looked miserable. "Hi, Mom." Her voice was small. "Can we come in?" Thomas's smile was all charm. We wanted to talk. I let them in because I didn't know what else to do. They sat on my couch. Jessica perched on the edge like she might bolt at any moment. Thomas leaned back, comfortable, in control. "Marina, I think we got off on the wrong foot," he began. "But I love your daughter, and I want us all to be a family." I looked at Jessica. She was staring at her hands. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" Thomas answered before she could. "She's fine. We're both fine. Actually, better than fine. That's why we're here." He reached over and took Jessica's hand. "We wanted to share some exciting news with you. I've been working on a new venture, a nonprofit incubator that's going to help small organizations scale their impact. It's going to change lives, Marina. Really change lives." I knew where this was going. That sounds ambitious. It is, and expensive to launch properly. We need capital to get started, to rent space, hire staff, build the infrastructure. He leaned forward, his eyes locked on mine. "Jessica and I have put in everything we have, but we're still short. We need about $400,000 to really do this right." There it was. The ask. I looked at Jessica. "Is this what you want?" She finally looked up. "Thomas has worked so hard on this, Mom. It's a good investment, and it's a chance for you to show that you support us, support our future." Those weren't her words. I could hear Thomas in every syllable. "Jessica, can I talk to you alone for a minute?" Thomas's hand tightened on hers. "Anything you need to say to Jessica, you can say in front of me. We don't have secrets. I'd like to speak with my daughter privately." "Mom, just answer the question. Will you help us or not?" Jessica's voice had an edge now, defensive and desperate. "I made a decision. I need time to think about it. This is a lot of money." Thomas smiled, but it was colder now. "Of course. We understand. We'll give you a few days." He stood up, pulling Jessica with him. "But Jessica and I are a team, Marina. If you can't support us, support our dreams, then maybe Jessica was right. Maybe we do need space from people who don't want us to succeed." After they left, I sat in my living room for an hour, staring at nothing. Then I called Sarah. "I need to move faster." He just asked me for $400,000. He's accelerating. That means he might be getting pressure from creditors, or his wife found out about Jessica. We need to act now. Over the next 3 days, Sarah and I built our case. She contacted the 2 previous victims and asked if they'd be willing to speak with Jessica. Both agreed immediately. If we can save one woman from what he did to us, the doctor from Seattle said, we'll do whatever you need. Sarah recorded video statements from both women. I watched them, my heart breaking. These were accomplished, intelligent women, just like my daughter. They described the same pattern, the whirlwind romance, the isolation, the sudden financial emergency, the requests for money that started small and grew, the way Thomas made them feel crazy for questioning him, guilty for not trusting him. Both had lost not just money but their sense of self. I was a doctor, the Seattle victim said, tears streaming down her face. I diagnosed complicated conditions, I saved lives, but somehow he made me doubt my own judgment about everything. I also had Sarah pull together all the documentation. The marriage certificate showing Thomas was still legally married to a woman named Carla Brennan. The police reports from 2 states. The statements from his parents and sister about the theft. His real social security number. His real background. Everything. Then I did something hard. I wrote Jessica a letter. Not an email. A real letter. Handwritten on the stationery she'd given me for Mother's Day 5 years ago. My dearest Jessica, I wrote. I know you think I'm trying to control you or hurt you. I'm not. I'm trying to save you. The man you're engaged to is not who he says he is. I have proof. Please, I'm begging you, meet me. Just you. 1 coffee. 30 minutes. If you look at what I have and still want to marry him, I'll step back. I'll respect your choice. But please give me 30 minutes to show you the truth. I love you more than anything in this world. Mom, I left the letter in her mailbox at midnight, when I knew they'd be asleep. 2 days later, she called. 1 coffee. 30 minutes. But if this is just you trying to manipulate me, I'm done, Mom. Completely done. We met at a Starbucks halfway between our houses. Jessica arrived exactly on time, her face guarded, her posture defensive. She sat down across from me and crossed her arms. 30 minutes. Starting now, I slid the tablet across the table. Just watch, please. The first video started playing. The doctor from Seattle. Jessica's face went through a series of changes as she watched. Confusion, recognition, denial. The doctor was describing meeting Thomas. How charming he was. How quickly things moved. Jessica's arms slowly uncrossed. When the doctor got to the part about the money, about how Thomas had pressured her, manipulated her, Jessica's hand went to her mouth. The second video. The lawyer from Denver. More of the same pattern, different details. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. When both videos ended, I pulled out the documents, the marriage certificate. Jessica stared at it, her hands trembling. He's married? Still married. His wife doesn't know about you. I showed her the police reports, the statements from his family, the trail of names and lies. With each piece of evidence, I watched my daughter's face crumble. The nonprofit, she whispered. The 400,000. There is no nonprofit, sweetheart. There never was. It was all building to this, to getting money from you or from me. Jessica sat back in her chair, her face white. I defended him to you. I cut you off. She covered her face with her hands. Oh my God. Mom, what did I do? I reached across the table and took her hands. You fell in love with someone who lied to you. That's not your fault. He's a professional. This is what he does. But I'm a prosecutor. I interrogate liars for a living. How did I not see it? Because he made you feel like you couldn't trust your own judgment. That's what these people do. They isolate you. They make you doubt yourself. They become your whole world, so you can't see them clearly anymore. Jessica looked at me, tears streaming down her face. I told you not to come to Thanksgiving. I cut my own mother out of my life for him. I know, baby, but I'm here now, and we're going to fix this. She shook her head. I've been so stupid. I let him into my bank accounts. I gave him my passwords. He has access to everything. My blood ran cold. We need to secure your finances right now. Today. We left the coffee shop and went straight to Jessica's bank. She closed the joint account she'd opened with Thomas, moved her money to a new account he didn't know about, changed all her passwords. While we were there, she called her credit card companies and froze her cards. Then she called her office and took emergency leave. I can't face anyone right now, she said. I prosecute criminals, and I was sleeping next to one. We went back to my house. Jessica sat on my couch, the same couch where she and Thomas had sat 3 days earlier, asking for money. She looked smaller somehow, fragile. I have to confront him, she said. Not alone, I said firmly, and not without a plan. I called Sarah. Within 2 hours, she was at my house with a lawyer friend, Margaret Chen, who specialized in fraud cases. Together, we strategized. The priority is protecting Jessica legally and financially, Margaret said. We file a restraining order. We file a fraud report with the police. We make sure he can't access any more of her assets or damage her professionally. What about criminal charges? Jessica asked, her prosecutor brain kicking in despite her emotional state. The police reports from other states give us leverage. Combined with what he's already done here, attempting to defraud both you and your mother, we have a case. But Jessica, you need to be prepared. These cases can take time. Jessica nodded, her jaw set in that determined way I recognized from her childhood. I want him arrested. I want him to face consequences. The next morning, we went to the police station. Jessica filed a formal complaint, backed up by all of Sarah's evidence. The detective who took the report was a woman in her 50s who listened with growing anger. This guy's a real piece of work, she said. We'll coordinate with the other jurisdictions. He's wanted in 2 other states already. Adding your complaint gives us more ammunition. How long until you can arrest him? Jessica asked. We need to verify a few things. Coordinate with the DA's office. Maybe a week. 2 at most. But we didn't have a week. That afternoon, Thomas showed up at Jessica's apartment. She'd moved back there 2 days earlier after collecting her things from the house they'd shared while he was at a supposed business meeting. She called me immediately when she saw him through the peephole. He's here. He's banging on the door. Don't open it. Call 911. I want to confront him, Mom. I need to. Jessica, no. Let the police handle it. But my daughter has always been stubborn. I heard her take a breath. I'm opening the door. Stay on the line. Jessica, I heard the door open. Thomas's voice, smooth and concerned. Baby, where have you been? You haven't answered my calls. I've been worried sick. Jessica's voice was steady, cold. I know who you are, Thomas. Or should I say Tom? Or maybe Thomas Brennan. Which name do you prefer? A pause. Then Thomas, his voice changing, hardening. I don't know what you're talking about. I know about Seattle, Denver, Phoenix. I know about your wife in California. I know about all of it. Another pause. When Thomas spoke again, the charm was completely gone. Who told you this? Your mother? She's been trying to sabotage us from the beginning. I've seen the evidence. Police reports, marriage certificates, statements from the women you scammed. It's over, Thomas. I heard movement. Something falling. Jessica, you don't understand. Those women, they're lying. They're just bitter because things didn't work out. You're married. That's a fact, not a lie. That's complicated. Carla and I are separated. We just haven't finalized paperwork. She doesn't know about me, does she? I called her Thomas this morning. She had no idea her husband was engaged to someone else. I heard Thomas's voice rise. You had no right to call her. You're ruining everything. I'm ruining everything? You lied about your name, your family, your entire life. I loved you, Thomas was shouting now. Everything I did was because I loved you. You don't love me. You don't even know what love is. You saw a prosecutor with a steady income and a mother who might have money. That's all I ever was to you. That's not true. Jessica, please. We can work through this. Just give me a chance to explain. Explain to the police. I filed a report this morning. They're coming for you. I heard a crash, something breaking. You bitch. After everything I did for you, you call the cops on me? Jessica's voice shook but held firm. Get out of my apartment. You owe me. I spent 2 years on you. I earned that money. You earned nothing. You're a con artist and a liar. Get out before I call 911. I'm not going anywhere until we settle this. That's when I heard Jessica say clearly, loudly, I'm calling the police now. And she hung up on me. I called 911 immediately, gave them Jessica's address, told them there was a domestic disturbance in progress. Then I got in my car and drove to her apartment, my hands shaking on the wheel, praying I wouldn't be too late. When I arrived, there were already 2 police cars outside. I ran up the stairs to Jessica's floor and found her in the hallway with 2 officers. She was crying, but she was safe. Inside her apartment, through the open door, I could see Thomas in handcuffs. Jessica saw me and collapsed into my arms. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. Shh. It's okay. You're safe. That's all that matters. One of the officers came over. Are you the mother who called it in? I nodded. Good timing. He was getting aggressive when we arrived. We're taking him in now. There are outstanding warrants from 2 other states, plus the fraud complaint your daughter filed this morning. He's not going anywhere for a while. I watched as they led Thomas past us. He looked at Jessica with such hatred, it made me flinch. You'll regret this, he hissed. Both of you. The officer jerked him forward. Keep moving. After they took him away, Jessica and I sat in her apartment. It was a mess. He'd thrown things, broken her favorite lamp, ripped up photos. Jessica looked around, her face numb. He was living here, sleeping next to me, and I didn't know. I'm a prosecutor, Mom. I'm supposed to see through lies. I took her hand. He's a professional predator. He's spent years perfecting this. You're not the first smart woman he's fooled, and if we hadn't stopped him, you wouldn't have been the last. I just feel so stupid. You're not stupid. You're human. You wanted to believe someone loved you. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face again. You tried to warn me. You saw it from the beginning, and I shut you out. I said terrible things to you. You were being manipulated. That's what he does. He isolates his victims from anyone who might see through him. That email I sent you about Thanksgiving. He wrote it. I sent it, but he was standing over my shoulder, telling me what to say. I felt sick doing it, but he convinced me it was necessary, that you were toxic, that I needed to set boundaries. She put her face in her hands. I let him turn me against my own mother. I pulled her close. I never stopped loving you, not for 1 second. We sat like that for a long time. Finally, Jessica pulled back and wiped her eyes. What happens now? Now we rebuild. You heal. You get therapy to process this. You lean on people who actually love you. And you let the legal system handle Thomas. I want to testify against him. I want to make sure he goes to prison. You will. But first, you take care of yourself. Over the next few weeks, the case against Thomas grew. The police found evidence of fraud in 5 states. involving 7 women and over $2 million. His real wife in California filed for divorce and added her own charges. The media picked up the story. Prosecutor catches con man who targeted her, read one headline. Jessica hated the attention, but her story helped. 3 more women came forward with their own experiences with Thomas. Jessica started therapy. She took a leave of absence from work. She moved in with me for a while, sleeping in her old childhood bedroom. Some nights she woke up crying. Other nights, angry. I held her through all of it. One evening, about a month after Thomas's arrest, we were sitting on my back porch watching the sunset. Jessica had been quiet all day. "I keep thinking about what would have happened if you hadn't investigated him," she said finally. "If you'd just accepted my email and stayed away, I couldn't. You're my daughter. He would have gotten the $400,000 from you or from me. He would have disappeared, and I would have been left with nothing, not even you, because I'd pushed you away." She turned to me. "You saved me, Mom. You literally saved my life. You saved yourself, too. You were the one brave enough to confront him, to file charges, only because you gave me the evidence I needed to see the truth." She took my hand. "I'm sorry I doubted you. I'm sorry I chose him over you. You don't have to apologize anymore. We're past that. No, I need to say this. You're the person who's loved me my whole life, who sacrificed everything for me, who never gave up on me even when I gave up on you, and I'm never making that mistake again. From now on, if you have concerns about someone in my life, I'm listening." I smiled. "Even if I'm being paranoid? Even then. Because your paranoia saved me from marrying a monster." 3 months later, Thomas Beck, also known as Thomas Brennan, Tom Beckman, and several other aliases, was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for wire fraud, identity theft, and other charges. 7 women testified against him. Jessica was one of them. I sat in the courtroom and watched my daughter, strong and steady, describe what he'd done to her. She didn't cry. She didn't waver. She looked him in the eye and told the truth. When she was done, the judge thanked her for her courage. After the sentencing, we stood outside the courthouse. Jessica was surrounded by reporters, but she declined to comment. We walked to my car in silence. "How do you feel?" I asked. "Relieved. Angry that he gets out in 12 years. Sad for all the time I wasted. But mostly grateful." "For what?" She looked at me. "For you? For the fact that when I needed saving, you didn't hesitate. You didn't say, 'I told you so.' You just loved me and fought for me. That's what mothers do. Not all of them. I know women from the support group who weren't as lucky, whose families turned their backs. I could have been one of them if you'd given up on me." I put my arm around her. "I will never give up on you. That's not how love works." Jessica leaned her head on my shoulder. "I know that now, and I'm never forgetting it again." We stood there for a moment, mother and daughter, survivors. Then we got in the car and drove home. That was 2 years ago. Jessica went back to work after 6 months. She threw herself into prosecuting financial fraud cases, using her experience to understand victims in a way she never could before. She started dating again, slowly and carefully. She brings every new person to meet me early on, asking for my input, trusting my instincts. Last month, she met someone. His name is David, and he's a high school teacher. He has a big extended family, a completely verifiable past, and a gentle nature that makes me feel at ease. When I expressed a mild concern about how fast they were moving, Jessica immediately slowed down. "You're right, Mom. I don't want to rush this. Sometimes I think about that email she sent me. We need space. How those 2 words almost destroyed both of us. How close I came to losing her forever. But I didn't lose her. Because I trusted my instincts, did my research, and never stopped fighting for my daughter. And she found her way back to me, stronger and wiser for what she'd been through. Would you have fought for your child, or would you have stepped back? Would you have respected their wishes, or pushed past their boundaries to save them? I can't tell you the right answer. Every situation is different. But I can tell you this. Sometimes love means not giving up, even when you're told to. Sometimes it means being the bad guy so you can be the hero later. And sometimes, trusting your gut is the most important thing you can do. Thank you for listening to my story.